Hello and welcome to another video on the MOPC Languages channel. When I told you I was going to describe every language in the world, maybe you didn't actually understand or believe me, but yeah, I'm going to describe languages that haven't been described by pretty much anybody, including indigenous languages of South America. And my first one on my English language channel is going to be the Yanomamo language. Actually, the Yanomamo is a complex of languages. It's a dialectal complex that exists in the northern Amazon basin, right between Venezuela and the far north of Brazil. And there are at least some 5 dialects, separate dialects, some of which are already from a linguistical point of view, separate languages. So we're going to understand this language, which is not related to other languages in South America. No relationship to many other families that exist either in the Amazon or elsewhere in South America or elsewhere in the world for that matter. It's an ergative language. It has ergativity. Ergativity is a feature whereby the subject of transitive verbs is marked in a way that's unique to it, while the object of the direct verb is marked the same way as the subject of the intransitive verb. Okay, that sounds complex and quite... Why would I care about that? That's pretty interesting. If you don't know about linguistics, you probably don't understand it, but if you know linguistics, if you understand a little bit about linguistics, you know that ergativity is a pretty interesting phenomenon. And among European languages, only the Basque language, that small isolated language spoken in the border near Spain and France, there is a survival from pre-Indo-European Europe. Basque language is also unrelated to other European languages. So the Basque language also features ergativity. And elsewhere in Europe, you only find ergativity in the Caucasus. In languages such as Georgian. Georgian has a split ergative system. It's like a different thing. But Chechen and Ingush and the Circassian languages and many of the Dagestanian languages feature actual ergativity. So we're going to discuss ergativity in Yanomamo, and as a theory in general on this video, let's take a look at the Yanomamo language itself. So the Yanomamo family, actually, as I said, it's already a multiplicity, a multitude of languages. It's already a multitude of languages. A small language family has around 30,000 speakers nowadays, all over, as I said, Venezuela and the state of Roraima in the far north of Brazil. The main Yanomamo languages or dialects are the Cobariwa Yanomami, spoken by 20,000 people, the Waika Yanomami, spoken by 6,000 people, and Shiriana, with 1,000 speakers. Sunuma, which is the most different of all the Yanomamo dialects, already pretty much a separate language, spoken by 3,500 people, and the Yanomamo Yawari dialect spoken by a little over 400 people. Those are data from maybe 20 years ago. Demographics of several indigenous populations in South America, especially in Brazil, has been shifting quite dramatically recently because there have been certain incentives. There have been a few incentives created by the federal government in Brazil that have made people who formerly didn't identify as indigenous to start identifying as indigenous. And on the other hand, there have been also several populations that have dwindled, of course, because of diseases and other things. But overall, the indigenous population in Brazil and other Amazonian nations has been increasing for the past 20 years. Here we can see the map of the dialects that I spoke about before. The Sonoma is the northernmost and most different dialect, and the other ones are shared with the central area and Brazilian area. The Yanomam dialect is mostly spoken in the Roraima territory of Brazil, the state of Roraima in Brazil. And the other varieties are also spoken all over this northern Amazonian territory. There are about 2/3, maybe 3/4 of speakers are, at least the ethnic Yanomamo, are in Venezuela. But not all ethnic Yanomamo speak the language. That makes counting ethnicities as something that's different from counting speakers of languages. We have even entire ethnicities in Brazil that have no speakers of the language. They lost the languages altogether. Sometimes they speak another indigenous language taken from a neighbor, or sometimes they speak Portuguese. The same probably happens in Venezuela with several indigenous groups speaking either other indigenous languages or Spanish. So counting speakers of a given language is very different from counting the size of the ethnic group in terms of population. Here you can see the evolutionary tree of the Yanomamo languages. Probably the Yanomamo languages, the Yanomami language was a single language until about maybe the time of discovery, the time of European arrival in the New World 500 years ago. And maybe only Sanoma was a little bit more distinct at the time. But since then, the Sanoma dialect has drifted apart quite considerably. And the other dialects have also started emerging from each other, from the main Yanomamo, non-Sanoma branch of the family have been splitting substantially. The Yanomamo are known as the fierce people, and that's why they were so isolated. They refrained from contact, violently avoided contact with outsiders. It wasn't until the 1950s or 60s that the outside world started understanding and contacting Yanomamo people with some regularity, to the point of the language being known and their culture overall being known by anthropologists from Brazil and other countries. The Yanomamo were quite isolated, and of course, given their location in the far north, one of the most inaccessible areas of the Amazon, of course, that made it easier for them to evade attention. And their fierceness, as I said, the fierce people, is one of the descriptions given to them, and made them also not so approachable. Okay, let's go to the language itself. I'm going to describe the main Yanomami dialect, the Yanomam dialect spoken in Roraima and parts of Venezuela. But if I speak about other dialects, I'll mention here as far as I could ascertain, because each of the sources that I use to research the languages, each of these sources, they speak of slightly different languages. And they also have slightly different transcription methods, and they have discrepant information. So it's difficult to know exactly what I'm talking about, exactly when I'm talking about the language, because each work, each book, each thesis from the universities that I read describes a somewhat different language. But I'll try to draw a common picture here. Phonetically, Yanomamo doesn't have that many unusual sounds when it comes to the vowels. It has a typical South American, Amazon area, Brazil area vowel system based on I, E, U, O, A. It's pretty much a 7 vowel system. It has the I, E, A, O, U that is typical of European languages, plus the less usual which is like a closed E, like a sound, like a schwa sound. And this letter I with a little dash in the middle is like There's also a very typical sound for South American indigenous language of the Amazon and Brazilian overall linguistic area. Those languages are very different from each other when it comes to grammatical structure and mostly vocabulary, but phonetically, most of them contain a 6 or 7 vowel system that includes the as one of their vowels. That is usually transcribed in many traditional transcription systems as Y, as the letter Y. It's like a central non-rounded vowel. Central back non-rounded vowel. When it comes to syllable types, Yanomamo has a consonant vowel, consonant liquid vowel, which is like liquid is an R and L type consonant, means far. Ploque means empty. Plica means pepper. Chiwariplo means always. Claya means a caterpillar. Cloque means a cloud. Mlaka means sand. Hlame means spicy, pepper. Hlake means slippery. So you see that Yanomamo does allow for initial consonant clusters as long as the second consonant in the cluster is an L or an R. So it has like kla and kra. Yanomamo language is not tonal. Okay, many languages in South America have some tonality, even though that nature is also disputed. There have been some Linguists that have hurried to describe certain languages as tonal when they are not actually tonal. It does have a stressed syllable, much like European languages. Yanomamo has a syllable that has a little bit more stress than the others, and that does tend to be the second to last, the first one before the last syllable. And tonicity, stress, is not contrastive, so no words will contrast with each other because of different syllables being stressed, unlike English, like to object versus an object. And the questions are made by rising intonation. There's no particle or verb order or any verb form or any other words or morphological mechanism that indicates a question as opposed to an affirmation, to a statement. Yanomam is an SOV language. It means subject, object, verb. There is an agent, the doer of the action, the object, which is typically the sufferer of the action, the receiver of the action, or the thing affected by the action, and the verb, which is the action or the state in question. It has postpositions, so its prepositions are they occur after the word, the word that they refer. So you don't say in Brazil, you say Brazil in, or in the kitchen, you say the kitchen in. And it's an ergative language, like I told you. I'll talk about that later. So kama yamakana Yuri Yamapa Warema. We ate fish. We ate fish in the plural. So Kamayamakane, Kamayamaka is the pronoun for me. It's a long word for a pronoun, probably. There might be some shorter words there. Kamayamakini means we. So Kami is me, Kamayamaki is us. And the ni, the end, marks the agent of the verb, the agent of the action, so the one who performs the action. So we know that we there are the ones who cause something to happen. We are responsible for whatever the sentence is describing. That's what the ni does. It marks the agent of the transitive verb. Yuri is fish. The word yuri itself is not marked for object or subject in this case because it's an object. If it were a subject, if the fish ate something, it would be yuri ne. Yuri ne. So yama is a prefix put in the verb to indicate that the subject of the verb is we and the object is them. So it has a first person plural subject or agent and a third person plural object, yama. Yama is first person plural, and p means third person plural. Yama p means that the verb has a we as a subject and them as an object or patient. The verb wa itself is the verb to eat is wa. And the perfect aspect, the indication that the action is completed, is indicated by the re, and ma indicates that it's completed in the past. It was completed in the past. It's not completed in the present, it won't be completed in the future. It has been completed, it is completed like a present perfect or perfect past. It means yamapa warema, we ate them. So we know that fish is the plural because of the verb, the p there. Between the yama and the wa indicates that the object of the verb is plural, because the noun itself does not mark plural directly. Yuri is one fish or two fish or 1,000 fish. Actually, even in English, fish doesn't change for plural, right? But most towns do. In Yanomama, that's not the case. We don't have that distinction. But if you shot an arrow, you say sharaka ya niarema. Sharaka is or sharaka is an arrow. Sharaka. Ya is the prefix for a first person subject. Ya. The object is a third person singular object, the sufferer of the patient of the verb. Ya'a. Nia is to shoot. Nia. And then you have the same rema that we have in the previous verb, which means a perfect action in the past. I shot an arrow. So I shot an arrow. Sharaka yana niarema. If I had said, I suppose, sharaka yapa Niarema means I shot arrows, right? Because instead of a, the prefix p indicates that the object of the verb is plural. There is no pronoun in the second sentence, so there's no ergative marker, because the ergative subject, the agent, is not marked by an overt word. If you said like the man shot an arrow, then the word man would have to be suffixed by n, in order to indicate that it's an agent. The noun phrase in Yanomamo is determiner adjective noun. So you say, Hei pata ukaki, this big river, much like English. Adjectives like big come before the nouns. Big river, not river big. Here another sentence that shows how n marks both the ergative case, which is the agent of the verb, and the instrument feature of the language. You get the instrument by which somebody does something. So like kamaya ne means I. Kamaya is me, I, subject. N indicates that I'm the agent of the action. Moka ne, but moka is the rifle. So kamaya ne, moka ne, both me and I and the rifle, we are both responsible for what's going to happen. We're both agents. We're both instruments. Now we can only guess that because I am a person, I must be more agent. I must be the agent and the rifle is the instrument. But Yanomamo doesn't distinguish, as far as I could ascertain, it doesn't distinguish between agents and instruments. Shama, which means a tapir, one of those animals with a flexible nostrils, flexible nose, like a bit of a small trunk. Yapa shaprarama. So yapa, ya, the prefix for me, for I. Pa, third person object. Shapra, to kill. Rama, perfect past. I killed the Shapirs with a rifle. Okay? If I had killed only one Shapir, how would I say that? Kamayani mokani shama ya a shaprarama. Right? Instead of pa, you put the a. The morpheme that agrees with the object of the transitive verb agrees with the subject of the intransitive verb. If a verb is intransitive and therefore only has a subject, or only has one noun connected to it, the intransitive verb is like to rest or to work. You just work. You don't work something. You work. There's only one element attached to it. And when that happens in Yanomamo, it's the verb agrees with the subject. The same verb that agrees with the object of the transitive verb, in this case, agrees with the subject of the intransitive verb. That defines ergativity. That's what ergativity is about. Let's take a look here. Warapanu shama aniyamahe. Warapanu shama aniyamahe. The man arrowed, so that they shot arrows at the tapir. The man's arrowed the tapir. So waro is man, waropa is the plural man, and the n marks the ergative subject. Shama, ani. So here we have the ania, this prefix before the nia, which is to arrow someone, so to hit with an arrow, to hit something with an arrow, is a, which indicates that it's agreeing with a third person singular noun. So the verb is agreeing with its subject because it shot only one arrow. It's several men shot one arrow, or shot one at one tapir. They shot one tapir. So the verb is agreeing with the tapir, not with the man. Not with its agent, but with its patient. With the element that undergoes the action. Okay, pretty much no European language does that. Typically, European language, if it's one boy kills one cat, the verb will only change if you change the boy to plural. Two boys kill the cat. The verb always agrees with the one who's performing the action. The boy, not the one who's suffering the action. In Yanomamo and in any ergative language, whenever a verb has a patient, The patient is the one that the verb agrees with, and the object, the subject, the agent of the action, the one responsible, the guilty individual or element, does not attract agreement to itself. Does not. So aniamahe. But if you say that the tapir escaped, that's an intransitive verb. Shama atokuma. So once again, have a agreeing with the subject. Just get the tapir. Atokuma. So you have to say shama pa. Patokuma. So that would be the tapirs escaped, or something on those grounds. If you put the tapir shama in the plural, then in this case the verb to escape would agree with the subject. Only because it's intransitive and there's nothing else for it to agree with. So in Yanomamo, there's an article-like morpheme that comes after the noun that may indicate individual, singularity, or plural. Like koraha is a banana. Koraha a indicates that it's one banana you're talking about. And koraha pa is bananas. Koraha si is a banana tree. So that's a composite. And koraha uku is banana paste, like a banana soup, a banana smashed banana. And in this case, you can't put the morpheme on the koraha anymore because it's in a composite. So you can put the a and the p. In this case, you simply have a composite and can no longer add the morphemes there. Ararima Yanomama a. So if you say that something is Ararima is a Yanomami Indian, you just say Ararima Yanomama and put the a because it's one. He's one on the Yanomama. Hey Hima. Hey Hima a. Hey means this. Hima is dog. Hey Hima a. This is a dog. A Yanopa. So in this case, you have like other houses. So that's a plural. The pa indicates a plural noun. If you say just ayano a, is the other house, another house. Ayano pa means other houses. Here we come to the pronominal system. We have seen some pronouns. We have seen the kami and the kamiya. So here we come to the pronoun system in Yanomamo. There is a free form, which is used in isolation when there's no verb. There is a singular form used with verbs, like kamiya. Kami is me, like the singular isolated form, free form. Kamiya is like I, when I say I do something. They can put that in the plural, in the dual and the plural. Kamiya haku means the two of us. And kamiya maka means three or more of us. And the possessive ipa means my or ours. Doesn't change. Kaho, kahoa means you. Kahoa haki, the two of you. Kahoa maki, the three or more of you. And aho means yours or your. The third person, kama, is also a multi-gender. It's feminine and masculine. Yanomamo doesn't distinguish he from he and or she, him or her. And the dual is kamakupa. The plural is kamaka, and the possessive is kama, which is his or hers or theirs or its. Apasipa, ipasipa, that means me, mine palm trees. We saw before that si is a palm tree or tree. Ipa means mine. Ipasi a will be my tree, my palm tree. Ipasipa, my palm trees. That's a plural. But you can't use ipa with mandatorily possessed nouns. You can say ipa he. He is head. But you can say ipa he. You have to say kamiya he. With some nouns, you have to use the pronoun form, not the ipa possessive, but the plural, the pronoun itself in its full form. That we saw there on the second column of the table. Uti pi pe warokema. Who arrived? Uti. P is a focus particle that probably goes with like question words. You have the focus. The focus is who? Uti. Uti pi. Uti pipa warokema. Pa indicates a third person plural. Waro means to arrive, and kema is a perfect passive. Uti wama ta tai ta ta. What are you doing? Uti, what? Wama, you too. Ta tai ta. So what are you doing there? Ta tai ta. Ta may reinforce the question element of the aspect of the interrogative. Uti hawa upra kuakura. Where are you? Uti may mean who, what, or where, depending on the rest of the sentence. Uti is an all-purpose question word. So here we have we talk about upra, which is to exist, to be. So I'll give that upra, say, probably where are you? Upra is mostly like a locative verb. So hawa upra kuakura. Negation is done with imi suffix. So yama tata. Tata is the verb to make. Yama tataimi, we don't do. We don't make. Shama yashaprama. I killed the tapir. Sama yashapranimi. I didn't kill the tapir. What's interesting about Yanomamo is that given that their lives is so much revolve so much around the river, moving around in canoes or along the rivers, that the language itself marks the verb for whether an action happened upstream, downstream, on this side of the river, or on the other side, or near their home, their station. So tayo is far from here on the same margin. Harayo means upstream on the other margin of the river. Kire means downstream, and horo means back home, back in the tribe, back in the village. That's all standard verbal conjugations. Can add those morphemes to the verb regularly. Iha aharou com kurima. So it means he healed again downstream, right there downstream. Iha aharou, there he harou, he healed. Com, again, kuru, mas. Kuru is downstream, as you saw it. And ma means past. Com kurima, harou com kurima, he healed again downstream. Other directionality indicators with the verb may be huru, which is from far from here, away from the speaker. Ima, which is closer to the speaker, just like the hin and her and hair prefix in German. You and pohuru, to a higher place, da papa rara huruma. The white, da papa, rara huruma. Rara to escape, huru means direction away from here, and ma indicates the past. The reflexive morpheme is mu or mo. TV aha kunatoi ya tarema. I saw kunatoi on TV. Ya means me, him. Me, him. Ya a. Tarema. Ta is to see, and rema is perfect past. TV aha kamiyata morayoma. I saw myself on television. That's the reflexive. Tamorayoma. Tamorayoma. Ya tamorayoma. I saw myself. Tamo, this mo indicates self, and rayo is another way to indicate the past of the verb. Hima no marayoma. The dog died. That's a causative that transforms a verb that typically is intransitive into a transitive. So to die becomes to kill. And if a verb is already transitive, this morpheme typically takes the transitive verb and transforms into a double transitive. That is to make somebody kill somebody. That's why it's causative. It causes people to do something. Nape ani hima o nomamarema. The white man, napa, ane, indicates third person subject, and ne indicates morpheme of like the ergative subject, the agent of the action. Hima, the dog, one dog, means singular, nomamarema. So in that case, he made the dog die. So he killed the dog, right? When it comes to numbers, the indigenous languages of the Amazon region and most of Brazil typically do not have numbering systems extending beyond 4 or 5. Okay? That's the only thing that indigenous languages of anywhere in the world, those languages of hunter-gatherer tribes, that's the only aspect where these languages actually match the prejudice that people have that these languages must be simple. They are probably devoid of complex structural grammar, and they cannot express abstract or complex thought, which is entirely false. But the numbering system does match that prejudice. Not because they can't think of quantities, but just because they don't verbalize it. They tend to count using like beads on their collars or their fingers, using the bones in the fingers to count. And they don't transform exact mathematical quantities above 5 into numbers. So they may just say how many hands you have, because that's how many multiples of 5 or how many multiples of 10 you have. They do it differently, but they can't just understand perfectly. Okay, if they have like 12 arrows left to shoot their prey, their game, they know how many they've used and how many there are left. They can count 12, they can count 20, they can count just like any human being. You can count beyond it, but the language doesn't reflect it. They don't count using language. They count using imagination and physical objects. Much like smaller children. Have you noticed how children, when they are starting to speak, they have a lot of trouble telling like their age. They typically, when you ask how old are you, when you're 4 or 5 years old, the child would reply like with their fingers. That's because humans, in our evolution, probably did not include mathematics beyond basic quantities into the language system. We think about it, we can understand it, but not linguistically. We deal with it visually. Only later on, as civilization moves on to a more agrarian lifestyle, that dealing with exact quantities and being able to express to each other exact quantities makes languages incorporate exact quantities and numbers into their vocabulary. So that's why they don't have much of a numbering system. We see here Mori, which is 1 or very few. Porokapi, which is 2 or 3. Yerakatapi, which is 4, 5, or 6. Those are very inaccurate ways of communicating anything. I, which means some or another. Yami means a few. Waroho means many. Oyatehe means many. And Komi means all. Those are the numbers and quantifiers. Here we can see a comparison between 4 major Yanomamo languages. The Yanomami language, the Yanomam dialect, the Niham language, and the Sunuma language. You can see that Sunuma, as I told you earlier, is the one that's most distinct. And I'll leave the table there for you to pause the video and take a closer look at the vocabulary of this language, the compared vocabulary of these languages. Here's another table, the second part of the table. Take a look at that. And that's it. So that's the first description of a native South American language here. A language that's not easy to describe. It's been quite a journey to find some material about it, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you've been finally able to understand a little bit about languages that are native to distant, remote, non-agrarian and writing, non-civilized, so to speak, tribes whose languages usually are the subject of many myths, misinformation, delirious ideas, hallucinations about them. Their languages, just like any other language, they are somewhat adapted to their environment, which is different. It's different from ours. You can see that their verbs indicate which side of the river, or whether the action happened upstream or downstream from where you are right now. So it's indeed a language marked by their environment. It's a different way of thinking, but overall they have the same thing as us: adjectives, nouns, verbs, aspects, agreements between verb and subject, singularity and pluralities encoded somehow, questions, marked question words, pretty much everything that a typical human language has, but in a specific configuration for their necessities, the way they evolved their languages. So if you were happy with my video, please leave your comment, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and you can also help support the channel as described below. And you can also contact me for my online language teaching system. I teach European languages like German, English, Italian, Spanish, Swedish, Russian online. You can contact me by email, and I'll start teaching you from the comfort of your household, any language that you want, including multiple languages at the same time that you might desire to learn simultaneously. Okay, so I see you on the next video.